What we into this week? I was into watching gameplay for this game, The Outer Wilds.
I heard about it, but it's only on Xbox and PC.
Yeah, it's only on Xbox and it's only on PC, and it's kind of a letdown because I watched a bunch of gameplay for it, and I could definitely see myself getting into it.
We have to eat our words.
I definitely could see myself getting into it.
I think like last episode, the episode before, we're like, Xbox has got nothing we want on it. It's got nothing going on.
That's true, but like if it's on PC and it's on Xbox and it does well, then PlayStation will port it.
Yeah.
They will definitely port it.
Yeah, they'll get it. You could play it on PC, though.
Yeah, I guess I could.
Oh, wait, you have a Mac,
I have a Mac at the house.
But you have this Google thing, too, here. But that's
true, but I wouldn't. This isn't powerful enough to support, like, a PC game of that note.
So what makes this game, The Outer Wilds, so good?
It's kind of like Metroid, and this is, I'm taking this quote from the thing, but it's actually the most accurate. It's kind of like Metroid meets Majora's Mask.
Okay, Majora's Mask, the Zelda game.
The Zelda game.
Yeah.
Because you play as this character stuck in a time loop.
Right.
But you're also part of this race that is a fledgling spacefaring civilization. So like basically when you wake up, you're supposed to be taking off, blasting off into space for the first time that day. And every time you die, you basically start back over at that campsite because you're stuck in this loop. So all the experience, all the things that you've done up until the point where you died, you can take into account. You have all that knowledge, but then you have to, continue. So you got to figure out why you're caught in this time loop, while also, and the other thing, it's kind of like Metroid meets Majora's Mask meets. You remember that procedurally generated video game?
No Man's Sky.
That's the one. It's like those three games.
Didn't they give you No Man's Sky? I think I did. I played it for about 2 days and was like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, I did. And I played it and I was like, this is fine, but I can't see myself sustaining this over the course of like finishing this game. So I just didn't finish. But it's like those three. If those three games had a baby, this is what that game would look like. So
in like a Metroidvania style game, you come to a ravine. And there's like a post across the way,
right?
You can't get there.
You can't get there. You don't know why yet. You don't know how. There isn't a whole lot of go here, do this. Yeah. It's sort of like you can get to these things out of order, and then not. And like even like time of day plays into like whether or not you can access portions of the world or whatever.
Right.
And so basically, it all takes place on these 5 planets in this solar system, and you can visit each one. But depending on what time and what you have and how you've progressed in the story, will depend on how the story kind of gets revealed.
And later you find like a grappling hook, and then you can cross the ravine.
You can cross this ravine.
When you start back and you recycle through time, could you tell if you got to keep all that equipment that you would find? You do. Okay.
You do.
Right. So it's not a total roguelite type game where you just start over from scratch.
Yeah. It's not like everything that you've done to that point, now I have to. It's not like Dark Souls,
right?
You keep the knowledge and you keep the items that you've acquired over the course of that death. You just have to start from that one planet again and take off and do that stuff again.
Yeah, I'm definitely approaching end game. Speaking of From Software's Dark Souls, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, I'm in the last section. Yeah,
cool.
You can just tell when a game is getting ready to wrap up.
You start seeing a lot more of the enemy types from...
Well, not so much that. It's just a general feel of a game. Like, there's always like one really nice, strange, but also the most outlandish section of the world that you're suddenly in. And you know that they're about to wrap it up.
I see.
I'll let you know how that goes by next week, probably.
You got anything?
Did you play that game, Torment, Tides of Numeria?
No, but I did watch gameplay for it, which is why I didn't play it.
Okay.
And I think overall I would have liked it. It just requires an investment and a time that I don't want to put in right now.
And that's exactly what happened to me. Like, it looked super interesting. There's a lot of text you have to read, the story world. And I played it for a few hours, but what would happen is I'd play and it would make me drowsy because I always play at night, then I'd fall asleep. I actually need kind of an action-y or a Metroidvania style game to keep myself going, or else I'll pass out.
But the reviews I read for it were really well done, and the gameplay I saw for it was fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Graphically, it's not
the strongest, but the the world building and sort of like the attention to detail. There's a lot of attention to detail that make it kind of. I'd say it's fair to good.
Yeah. I did finish Doom Patrol with Laurel.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's great. It's really good.
Like I'd been telling you every week that I would come on here, I'd be like, Doom Patrol, Doom Patrol, Doom Patrol.
I really liked Umbrella Academy, and I think I liked this a little more.
Yeah, this was I liked Umbrella Academy too, and I think we spoke at length about it on the show. But I definitely preferred this better than Doom Patrol.
Yeah, I got to get those comics down and start reading those comics down and see how they line up.
I got to find another way to read comics online because View Comic is not.
Know.
I haven't found a substitute or comparable.
Do you think we ruined it because we talked about it on the podcast?
No, I think whatever.
And our 200,000 subscribers
I don't think
and just
we
like
ruined
bombarded it.
I think the world ruined it. I don't think they were. I think because they were crowdsourced every month.
Right.
I think whoever was doing it was like this doesn't serve me to keep.
I think they got shut down. I think
they might have gotten.
I think they just they finally realized they you know what, shut this down.
This was really. I mean, it was really kind of a stroke of luck that it was even like still running as long as it had.
It was weird that like I got into it and then it shut down a month later.
Really? So you were using it and then
I was reading Star Wars comics on it guiltily. I'll add. I felt bad. I felt like, but you know what? It did make me want to do. It did make me want to go to a comic book store and buy some comics and support comics.
And that's kind of what it did for me. I was like, oh shit, I should get back into reading comics again.
So I may not have bought the comics that I was reading on View Comics for free,
but
I would have bought some other comic and supported it,
right.
you know. And I not going to do that.
What else? I was.
Oh wait, can we go back to Doom Patrol real quick?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert for Doom Control at the very end. Doom Patrol. I want to talk about Alan Tudyk's character.
Oh, Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, Mr. Nobody.
Dear Chief, sorry we never found you. Signed, the f***ing totally useless Doom Patrol.
That's what a terrible name.
We're not the Doom Patrol.
God, no.
A bunch of broken morons.
What exactly is the plan here?
I have no idea.
Who have no business being heroes, accidentally get powers that give them the potential of heroics.
How does a band of circus freaks manage to screw up so badly that they lose their leader and the whole entire town at the same damn time?
They are forced, begrudgingly, to become heroes.
I am not afraid of you! The person who is sick of being judged is me.
New mission has presented itself.
Go to hell. Where's my daughter?
I'm sick and tired of waiting for them to become heroes already.
Who are you talking to?
Hello?
Doom Patrol. Oh, that is a terrible, old-school name, and then the minute you crack it, it's great.
Are you up for the challenge?
So I thought they were going to do this. I thought at the end they were going to make him more of a good guy than they did. He's kind of a good guy.
Is he?
Well,
I mean, you understand you understand why he is the way he is because of the circumstances he went through. But is he a good guy?
Well, I mean, he kidnaps Niles because Niles is not a good guy,
right?
Which is what's his face's character?
Timothy
Dalton, who has played a lot of these roles recently. I feel like
really. Because
he had a similar character in that Josh Hartnett movie, which now I'm drawing a blank, with like werewolves that was on Showtime for a while. Penny Dreadful.
Oh yeah, which is awesome. But kind of a similar character, like this guy who's like, I don't know, he did good. Don't get me wrong, but it also felt like kind of a rehash for him. Yeah. I was strangely like very invested with all of the characters. Cyborg was really good. Like that's what I meant. Like the way they deal with like the character motivations and why these characters are the way they are, and why with some of the best is especially when you're talking about like a superhero, property. Like you get why these people are the way they are because none of them want to be superheroes. Like they basically start the show where they're all living in a halfway house ostensibly.
Yeah.
All these people are like, broken, damaged things, and then over the course of the season, you get to see why they are the way they are, and then you get to also watch them overcome that stuff,
right? To
then become a superhero team. And there's that one episode where, and a lot of this is sort of spoken to through that character, Mr. Nobody,
right?
Nobody,
who's kind of narrating.
Yeah, he's like an omnipresent narrator, but also like privy to everything going on. He's like, finally we get to see these.
What I liked about the last episode that he did was there was a moment Laurel was like kind of like talking to me through it, but I was trying to pay attention and I had to stop and rewind it for her. But I was like this is really interesting. He in the show he reads a review of the show,
right?
And the review says that the ending is too weak. So then that's the impetus for him to go and make a big ending happen by making the cockroach and the rat very meta, which I found great.
That was part of the reason I loved it so much was it was meta in a way that wasn't like Deadpool's sort of like finger to the fourth wall kind of thing. It was meta in a way that I was like, isn't this a creative and more interesting way of telling a story based on these people?
Yes.
If you don't think so, well, kill yourself, ostensibly.
This is, yesterday was the first episode of Legion Season 3 that came out.
Which we didn't, I was going to bring up in the news section, but I haven't, like I've said on the podcast, I've tried to watch this property a bunch of times and I just couldn't get into it.
Did you try to watch it again?
Not yet. I haven't gone back to it yet. This week.
Promise me you'll go back to it because it's very much linked to this tone.
A lot of people have spoken very highly about the latter seasons of it, so I think I will go back.
It's slightly more serious than Doom Patrol, but not much. And it has a lot of the fourth wall breaking kind of things. Right. It's they're definitely in communication with one another, and you should watch it. What else?
I was into watching Sinking City gameplay.
Sinking City?
The Sinking City. It's another one of these video games that I was like, wow, I think I'm gonna get into it. It's like a detective novel. It's like a noir detective novel, and I think it's set in the 20s, and you're a detective who shows up in this city that is ostensibly sinking, but there's also like people are having these like psychotic breaks, and you, the detective, have been having this same kind of phenomenon happen to you. So you show up in this town trying to figure out why this particular part of the world is having this phenomenon happen, and how's that tied to you, and then subsequently what happens once you get to this place, and then trying to unravel these mysteries ostensibly.
The review from Polygon, the title says, The Sinking City Review, The Horrors of Touchy Controls and Racist Writers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It says, while The Sinking City subverts some of Lovecraft's racist tropes, like the quote-unquote horrors of interracial marriage...
It's based on some H.P. Lovecraft's work. That's right.
It rarely confronts them directly. The various characters you meet speak about their fear of what's happening with the creatures that seem to be slowly creeping into the city and living there, and it can be read as slight criticism of Lovecraft's fear of immigrants and miscegenation. The clan itself...
What's the source? What's the source you're reading that from?
This is Polygon.
Oh.
Which is
pretty reputable.
Pretty reputable. The clan itself also plays a part in the narrative and is presented matter-of-factly. This is a thing that would have happened in this time period, the game suggests, and commentary isn't necessary.
I think it takes place in the 1920s.
Yeah.
But like I said, from the gameplay that I've been watching of it, it's really intriguing. I love detective stories. I love sort of murder mysteries, and one of the first things that you do in the game is you solve the murder of this fish worker or whatever. And
you're a World War I veteran turned private investigator.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
I didn't think it would be, but like I said, I watched at least 2 parts of some of the gameplay, and it was fascinating. I wanted to play more of it. Because there's an ability, like once you walk into a crime scene, you have to find clues and then subsequently put the clues in order, in the right order to see what happened in that space. And if you put them in the right order, it'll give you sort of like a little contextual memory of what went down, and then subsequently you can jump from that case file basically to help you piece together other cases.
How are you with bad controls? Because it says it plays like a PlayStation 2 game.
It's possible, but I think the version that I was watching was a PC playthrough, so it didn't look like it was cumbersome or messed up. But is it out yet? Because I don't even know if it. I thought I was watching sort of like because the video I was watching, the guy kept saying, "Oh, it's not out yet. Maybe they'll fix this when it's out." Blah 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 blah.
This review came out June 25th,
so it's probably out then.
It doesn't. Sure. Yeah, June 27th. Yeah. So what's today?
Today is the 20. You said today's the 26th.
Yeah. So come 25th, so it comes out in 2 more days.
So it's not even out yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
This might just be one of those games that you wait for it to go on sale and you pick it up and it's like $10.
It might be.
You're like, yeah, it's pretty good.
I really enjoyed sort of like the narrative and how the story kind of plays out and some of the gameplay for it.
Game reviews can be very tricky too, because I've definitely read reviews that have shit all over a game and then played it and been like, actually, it's not that really bad at all.
Right.
And I don't mind whatever the criticism was. So yeah. I watched Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder review.
Right.
It was on Netflix.
Yeah, how was that?
I watched it last night. It was pretty late. It's good. It's it's an interesting time in Bob Dylan's life, you know? It's basically when he does, like, the album Desire, which has that song Hurricane. You know the story? Yeah, so it's that time period for him. And essentially he's just, you know, kind of the top of his game and top of his fame and doesn't really know what to do, so he just kind of gets a bunch of people and starts touring.
Summer 1975, a rumor came around that the inspired Dylan was back, gathering all of his forces.
I wanted to tell you something.
The idea was to put a tour up.
We should be playing 20,000 seaters. But instead, he wanted all these small venues.
We're really running short of time. Want to introduce Bob Dylan.
Boy, sure hope we get to Boston on time.
Where you been?
The tour was a catastrophe.
Where you been?
It wasn't a success. Not if you measure success in terms of profit.
What's most interesting about the Martin Scorsese directed documentary is that it sort of shows you the sycophantic relationship that everybody has with him. And they had a documentary filmmaker along with the tour sort of filming it at the time. They use a lot of that material in this Martin Scorsese documentary. So there's actually kind of 2 documentaries at once. And that the original documentary, I think, had a focus of showing Dylan and how people interact with him, which is almost more interesting than anything else. There's shots of him playing a lot of the songs from Desire, which is really good. He puts kind of like white makeup on his face, which they kind of hint at was inspired by Kiss, the band Kiss. But it's just interesting. It's an interesting critique or observation of what celebrity will do to a person and how people will suddenly act around that person, that celebrity. Which I see a lot of that stuff happening with Rami and even myself. Sort of like he's the same person, but also a different person now. And how do you interact with this person? How does this person want you to interact? How does Rami want me to interact? I'm sure he would say, "Just be you, man. Just be you." But it's like I can be me, but you're also kind of a slightly different person. I don't know.
It's interesting. I mean.
In
I
that
think
lens,
you'd have more of a reference because I haven't been in the same room or seen Rami face to face in quite some time.
Yeah,
I think the last time I saw him was actually here. It was a few years ago. He came by for like, I want to say like your birthday maybe. I think it was like the 4th of July maybe.
Yeah, I think what's difficult about it's not difficult. What's I want to talk to him about so many things. And a lot of that stuff is wrapped up in a work environment for him. And I know, and I can immediately sense that he doesn't want to talk about a lot of it. And so I don't, because I think
do you sense that, or is that something that you're based on what you just said?
I'm projecting that. I mean, who knows? You can get a sense from some people sometimes what they want to talk about, and then another times what role they would rather you play. You know what I mean? And I think, especially Bob Dylan, you can see that he's just alone a lot. He doesn't have anybody there that really doesn't admire him and want to tell him exactly what he wants to hear. And he's almost like a master at dealing with that stuff.
A master at like, what do you mean, accepting
Well, because
it,
at this point in his life, he's been famous for 20 years
right.
and been called a genius for 20 years, and rightly so. But has been 20 years dealing with everybody coming to him and trying to appease him, trying every moment to get him to like them, you know, and get him to think or be inspired by them or whatever. And then multiple moments come up in this documentary that show like women or men, like you just feel that sense of them wanting him to like them. You know what I mean? as opposed to a normal interaction with normal people. Anyways,
I saw a play a few years ago on the Vineyard that it was about Bob Dylan, but it was more about the guy who helped Bob Dylan get famous or introduced Bob Dylan to the scene that made him famous, and subsequently
Dave Van Ronk.
No, say another name. Was there another one?
There's a bunch of guys,
but one of them, this guy in particular, like put Dylan on the scene and was in love with Dylan in a way, and then killed himself.
Oh. I don't know. I don't know about that.
But this is and I think
Dylan stole from a ton of people.
And this is one of these. I think this was one of the guys that he did, and the guy was so in love with him.
It wasn't Dave Van Ronk.
No, it wasn't Dave.
Kill himself.
It wasn't Dave Van Ronk. If you said the guy's name, I'd be like, yeah. But he like kills himself in a bathtub or something like this.
Huh. I'll figure it out. It wasn't Jack Elliott, but
no, it wasn't Jack Elliott.
There was a lot of documentation about somebody going and showing Dylan a song, and then like 3 days later, Dylan showing up at the Gaslight, which is the club, and then playing that song in a different way,
in a different arrangement. But
But a lot of these were also very like folk songs, traditional, so nobody owned the rights to them.
And I think this is what this dealt with. I think this guy was like a traditional folk song guy. And like when Dylan was coming around, you know, like before he was Dylan, like this was the guy who like brought Dylan into like that folk world. He was like, hey, these are the tunes, these are the things, and here are the people you should know in order to sort of like, you know, expand your knowledge of it.
Right.
At least this is what the play sort of supposes, and I don't know how much of it was actual, you know, factual, but there were I forget the name of the writer and director, but I'd have to go look it up, but
okay.
Yeah, it was at the Vineyard Playhouse like 3 years ago. It was last summer that I was there. They were doing it.
I can probably figure it out.
But I would just does any of that come up in the documentary?
I still got 20 minutes left of it to watch. I don't think so. And comparing this Scorsese Dylan documentary to his previous one, which is No Direction Home, which was also a two-parter. I don't think this is a two-parter. I have to look it up. I'm still working through it because it is pretty dense and it's long. I was up to like 2 o'clock in the morning because it's riveting watching him sing these songs. It's also the beginning of what Dylan did was he wrote a bunch of songs, right? He toured with these songs, but as he toured for so long that the songs started to change. Mm-hmm. The lyrics stayed the same,
but the arrangements were different.
But the arrangement would be different. So what happens now when you go see Dylan, or previously in the last 10 years, is he would start playing some music and nobody would know what song it is. And then he would be like, hey, Mr. And then he would start singing and everybody would suddenly realize what the song was and start clapping and cheering along with it. But the song itself was almost unrecognizable to what it was previously.
Copy.
And you can see the beginnings of that happening with this, which is fascinating. And they're still recognizable for the most part, but not exactly the same,
Not that radio tune that you would instantly recognize. Okay, that's a good one.
Life is about creating yourself.
Well, I was mostly into a lot of anime this week, with a few caveats for things like Paperboy that I watched.
Lee Daniels. You want a quote from Lee Daniels about Paperboy?
Sure.
So he was in a recent New York magazine that had the drag episode. And so the question is, your movies can be pretty raw. Just a few minutes into Shadowboxer, a mobster shoves a broken pool cue into a guy's ass. And then in The Paperboy, you have not only the famous scene with Nicole Kidman when she pees on Zac Efron, but also a gigantic one in which she has this kind of telepathic sex in jail with John Cusack in front of a bunch of guys. Mm-hmm. Lee Daniels says, You know what it was like to get her to do that? And the guy says, I can't imagine. He says, it's no different than getting money from people. It's trust. And when you have somebody's trust, when you've got these fucking billionaires trusting you, it's the most beautiful thing in the fucking world. And guess what? I said, Nick, you trust me so bad, I'm going to give you everything I have. And she got a SAG nomination for it too. It's an interesting article. I mean, he's a bit all over the place, but for the most part, he came out of it with a lot of respect for Lee Daniels and just him.
Which is how I kind of feel like. Well, I'm not gonna say all of his movies are, but definitely I felt like Paperboy is a little bit all over the place. But I was enthralled by it.
Same guy who did Precious, in case you don't know.
And I think the same guy who did The Butler.
And same guy who did The Butler. He talks about The Butler too, and how The Butler was really a movie he made for his mom. And Yeah, he talks about telling Oprah Winfrey that she sucked.
Really?
He was like, "Yeah, you suck. Do better." And he said it didn't sound as harsh as that. But, you know, you tell actors what they need to hear in order to do a good performance. And if they trust you, same thing with the trust. You know what I mean? You'll get good performances from them.
Okay. I'm with that. So yeah, I'm going to start with the non-anime.
Okay,
so it was Paperboy.
Don't be so excited.
It was Swamp Thing, which is gnarly, and I finished up House of Cards, which was kind of a letdown.
House of Cards?
Yeah. I did not like the way it ended. Not at all.
I haven't seen it. Laura watched. You can talk to her about it.
It was half of a season.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full season, and I don't know if that was because old boy was gone,
probably,
and they didn't have faith in Robin Wright to. But by that point in the storytelling, it was so off the rails. Like it didn't. A lot of it didn't, in my opinion, didn't make sense. Like a president was basically assassinating people. She was basically murdering off like all these people who were like
Robin Wright Penn's character.
Yeah,
damn.
Yeah, like she was basically like orchestrating all these murders from the Oval Office that like what wasn't getting tied back to her, and like the literal final scene of the series, she kills a guy.
Oh God!
Like
I hate it when they do that.
Like not even like
they jump
not even like a throwaway guy. Like one of the main.
Like she literally kills him.
With like
what?
With a letter opener.
Oh my God!
From the
old
president's desk.
letter opener from the president
that he's initially holding to her throat.
Yeah,
and she's basically like, oh, blah blah blah, da, and then she shushes him to sleep, and then not even that, not like she stabs him with the letter opener. Lets him down to the ground and then suffocates him the rest of the way.
Okay.
And then the last frame, the last image that you see is her looking to the camera, and she's pregnant at this point.
Yeah.
It jumped and it was crazy because the previous season ended with what's his face, Frank Underwood, Spacey's character being like, I'm gonna kill her.
Yeah.
Because She is at the end of the last season. She has basically become the president, and he has told her to pardon him for the crimes that he's done. And in one of the instances, he looks at the camera. He's like, "If she doesn't pardon me, I'm going to kill her." And that's the last thing that character. That's the last thing that Frank Underwood basically says in the entire series. Cut to the very next season where he's already dead. He's died somehow.
He's died.
And then
they never tell you how he died.
You spend the entire rest of the season them kind of orchestrating, and then they do tell you, and you're like, "Wait, what? He did it? How does it? Okay." And then she kills him.
I guess they were just lucky to keep it going.
I think that's what it was, but it was so bad. I was mad. All right, so really quickly, that was the end of the live action stuff. Then I just ran, and that was right after watching that, I just started watching anime. I was like, I'm done. I need a palate cleanse.
Well, because TV's always trying to up the ante.
I guess
they do one thing, then and it ruins shows.
I feel like if you're gonna end the show this way, have the writing make it make sense. Have it serve. It didn't serve.
I would rather.
Robin Wright is awesome. She's incredible in the show, but the way they had it scripted by the end, I was like, yeah, this is dumb
and out of character.
They make you look stupid
and out of character. Yeah, and I would rather have a show end on a whimper but in character, than end on a bang out of character,
which was Game of Thrones all the way.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So for me, I just started watching anime, and I started with one that was. It was weird, but 16-year-old Rob would have loved it because it had really kind of all these highly juvenile aspects to it. It's called "How Not to Summon a Demon Lord."
Okay.
And I'm gonna put it out there and let people either go to it or not go to it. And basically the lead character is a shut-in who gets pulled into a fantasy MMO through his computer, and then basically.
See, that's why I'm not going to play these games. They pull you into them. Every anime is like
it's this guy's a shut-in video gamer who's reached this really high level in this video game, and then gets pulled into the world and then has to pretend like he is this character when he really is just a shut-in nerd who doesn't know how to talk to people. but then he spends most of the game like, oh, I'm a demon. Like his character's a demon lord.
Yeah.
But he's not really. So they have a lot of fun with that, and like it's really kind of nerdy and prepubescent is what I would say.
Okay,
I describe
that's why you loved it.
I really did. There's like boob grabs, like Naked Gun kind of boob grab where he's like, I'm touching a boob. I shouldn't be touching a boob. Like that kind of thing.
Nice.
The second one, there's actually the one that I enjoyed the most this week. Was Megalobox.
To be quiet and do as you're told. That's how cowards live.
Stay down.
Megaloboxing fuses athleticism with innovative gear technology to create the future of boxing.
What the hell are you wearing? That's some busted-ass gear, little doggy. You remember the plan, right? Toward the end of the third round, you're gonna take the fall.
I'm sick and tired of throwing these damn fights.
If the kid wasn't wasting away in this hole, he might have had a shot at the big time.
What the hell am I doing?
It's an anime sort of in the style of like Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's basically an underdog story. It's about boxing in the future, where boxing in the future has gotten boxers in the future.
Oh,
where,
I saw the ad for this. Yeah,
where frames. What am I trying to say? Like they wear like an exosuit, basically.
Okay.
Exosuit for boxing. And this tournament, the leader of this corporation starts this tournament to find a champion because she's basically selling an integrated exosuit where instead of going on the outside of the fighter, it's built into the fighter's bones. And so the lead character meets this fighter for this corporation in the worst of ways. Like he's basically riding down the street on his motorcycle. This guy, this woman appears in the street and he crashes and he's like, yo, what the hell?
Yeah.
Why are you standing in the middle of the street? And this fighter, her fighter basically steps to him and is like, you can't talk to her that way. And they're about to square off. And in that square off, they find they find themselves in each other. And so basically the lead character has to fight his way up to this main guy.
Right.
But in this world, he decides to not use gear. So they call him Gearless Joe. So it's basically he boxes his way up this ladder of people
without any kind of augmented
prosthetics.
Cool.
But then the guy who's the top guy, the guy he wants to fight, basically he decides to do the opposite thing where he takes his gear off, the integrated gear that he has been sort of touted and known for. He basically gets all that taken out of him to fight this guy on par. It's actually kind of incredible. It's a sort of standalone.
Is this on Netflix?
No, you got to go through another event. But I highly, highly recommend it. It shades of, like I said, Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop as far as like soundtrack. At one point, like one of the characters that he meets is this little kid who is like his ring people, and like the kid has like this Japanese flow that happens over the course of it's really hip and really cool. And I highly recommend it. And,
there's already talk that it's like maybe the next Cowboy Bebop of this generation. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Exactly what you said was like the first page that came up.
Wow, yeah.
You're like on it, man.
I'm telling you,
finger on the pulse.
I promise you, when you see it, you'll be like, oh shit, that looks like he looks like Spike.
Yeah,
like it's almost like.
I see his picture. It
like the way they draw
it,
it looks like Spike. And so some of these other characters, kind of the world that they build resembles that of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo in these ways. And the last thing I was into this week, animated wise, was I went back and I watched Young Justice season 3 in lieu of the new season is about to start.
Young Justin.
Young Justice.
Oh, Young Justice.
Season 3. Well, apparently this is the first part because the new season,
animated. Yeah.
The new season starts July 2nd. So I was kind of going back to sort of re-up, for the new episodes that are going to drop.
Cool.
Man, this could be it. Shield force coming your way. Gotcha covered.
It's one of the few animes that literally it was a fan favorite. It was highly well received, and then they canceled it. Mm-hmm. And then the fans caused a huge enough uproar and enough stink that they got it brought back. And so when they brought it back for the DC network. And it's been on the DC network ever since.
Yeah.
So I went back and I watched this season, and it's incredible. The writing is still as incredible as the first 2 seasons.
It's got 94% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Because it's fucking brilliant. It was the best show on television as far as like dealing with DC characters, but it wasn't a Batman story. It wasn't about Batman. It wasn't about Superman. It wasn't about Wonder Woman. It was about these younger generation of superhero. And then subsequently, the 3rd season is basically them kind of coming into their own, becoming sort of the adults in this universe, and sort of building new young people to sort of become the young Justice part of it. So I'm excited for this anime. I think you should be as well. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go see it.
Sounds good to me. I watched one last thing, 2 Picard episodes.
Okay.
One was, you'll probably remember them. Tell me if you do. One's called Lessons. And
what happens?
Basically, like, this woman comes on the show, or comes on the ship, and her name's Lieutenant Commander Darren, and she's the Stellar Science Department, and she plays the piano. And she's playing there, and you see Brett Spinner playing his his violin. He's like really playing it, like Brett Spinner
he
or
plays.
Spiner. It's like he's a legitimate
violinist.
player.
Yeah, he plays. He does it a couple times on the show actually.
And she's kind of like a fake pianist, but she's playing, and then somehow I can't remember how, but Picard starts playing his flute, right?
Uh-huh.
And this kind of love interest.
After the episode where he is the lifetime in that one. Okay.
So I missed that. Anyway, so he goes there and he says, "Listen, I only play this flute for people that are very, very important to me because it reminds me of my wife and my children and my grandchildren."
Where they're kind of like setting up a love interest other than Beverly Crusher.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So then the whole thing sort of like he has to send her down to a planet where she'll probably die. Mm-hmm. She doesn't. But it was very interesting. So I went back and watched the previous episode, which was called The Inner Light. And that's the one where they find this probe. This is a really good episode.
That's the one before that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that. They were like that, back to back like that.
No. It's like one is season 5, episode 25. The next is season 6, episode 19.
So wait, you went and found the episode that coincided with the one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went back. Somehow I missed it in my rewatch. Because Laura and I are kind of jumping around.
I see.
We're not, she watches some, I watch some, but we're not hitting every episode. So I missed that one. And anyways, the Enterprise finds this probe in outer space.
And it shoots a beam of light into Picard's head, and he basically gets like comatose on the bridge, and they don't know what's wrong with him. They can't figure it out, and he basically lives an entire lifetime.
He's in this other planet, and
in another body. Like basically, he's another person.
Yeah. And it cuts back to the bridge, then back to him, but it's 5 years. Suddenly, it's like it jumps 5 years.
Right.
He's been on this planet for 5 years, and then jumps back again. It's 15 years.
Right.
And then
every time they would
years.
leave and jump back to Picard, he would be in a later stage of his life on this planet with these people. So like he got to grow old and have a family, and then watch the family like come into their own. And
it was an important piece of trivia for me about Picard that I didn't realize, because in his mental mind, he has had a family and children and grandchildren, and then gone back to the Enterprise and lived a whole nother life that's leading up to this show, The Picard.
Right.
So for me, it's like it was just a really interesting little tidbit of Picard facts that I was glad to have watched. So that's season 5, episode 25. It's on Netflix. You should watch it and prep for Picard show coming out.
Yeah.
All right. Kung Fu Hustle.
Let's do it quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty, baby. My first note for Kung Fu Hustle is why/how has this movie? Why does this movie even exist?
That's a very good question, and I think it's based off of the success of Shaolin Soccer.
Yeah,
because I think Shaolin Soccer was the one right before this.
Yeah, so Stephen Chow was a star.
Oh yeah,
and so he started, and this is in China, and so he was a star, and he made a movie called Shaolin Soccer, and it did pretty good, at least in China. Mm-hmm. So then they gave him a budget of around $20 million to make Kung Fu Hustle.
Wow,
and it blew up, and worldwide made $102 million.
I think he used the money very wisely. He used it super wisely.
So it's set in 1940 Shanghai, and he plays like a criminal, a wannabe criminal named Singh.
He basically plays like a street. He's a hustler.
Yeah,
he's a street hustler.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't say criminal. Criminal implies that like he's actually good at being a criminal, and he's not. He just basically hustles for what he can eat and like drink and take care of his his homeboy with him.
It's classic like hero's journey.
Yeah.
Reluctant hero. He doesn't want to be a good guy.
He's mostly an anti-hero for the most part. So based on some really fucked up circumstances that happened to him.
Tell me a very quick plot. What happens?
So basically, as a kid, he's like a hero. He has a hero's heart, but not the hero's sort of like means to be a hero. And so when he's a kid, this beggar bum basically looks at him and is like, "Hey, you have the aura of a kung fu master," and sells him this manual.
And from the adult perspective, the bum is definitely just trying to make a buck.
Yeah, from the adult perspective, you're like, "Oh, this dude is just trying to get over on this kid." And so he takes this manual and he tries to learn all this stuff, and then he uses what he learns to come to the aid of this young girl who's getting picked on by like this group of bullies. And he shows up and does like what he learned in the manual to no avail, and they basically beat him up, pee on him.
They pee on him. I mean,
and
it's
they beat him up and
dramatic.
then leave him. They basically pee on him and leave him. And the girl comes to after this is all said and done, the girl shows up and she like in trying to thank him, and he basically runs off and leaves him.
She's mute.
And mute, yeah. She
can't say thank you.
She can't speak.
Yeah.
And so, but he doesn't know this. He never notices. He never notices this. So that happens at the very top of the movie.
No, it's midway through.
Is that midway through?
Yeah.
That didn't happen at the top?
No, that's the flashback. Because he goes to the small town basically to try to con them into getting a free haircut for his buddy,
which is ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous.
But basically, like, he's an anti-hero who's really good at thievery and picking locks or whatever.
And he desperately wants to become a member of the Axe Gang.
He wants to be a part of a criminal organization. So, because I guess that's how he determines his worth and wealth or whatever.
So he sort of like accidentally brings all the Axe Gang to this small town.
Yeah, he's sort of like he's sort of the inciting incident for why the Axe Gang shows up and starts to basically squeeze the landlords or the landlord and the people who live in this tenement, because it basically takes place in like a tenement, a building in Shanghai.
Yeah, but the landlord
and her husband, actually, the landlord, her husband, and a few of the denizens of this tenement are actually kung fu masters of different schools, of different notes. But they've all kind of been living in secret and living in hiding. You never really understand. You never figure out really why they do, but they all live there. But they don't know.
They said we're kung fu masters, but we're retired to this small town. We're going to own these buildings. We're going to rent them out. And that's all unspoken.
And some of them are shop owners, and some of them, do various things. But so anyway, so this Axe Gang shows up and tries to decimate the denizens of this tenement. And they can't do it because as they find out that there's these kung fu masters that live there,
but they don't look like kung fu masters.
No, they look like hobos and like poor people.
So the two landlords, basically, there's landlord one, the guy, and then there's a landlady. Landlady, she'd been retired from movies for like 12 years.
Well, a bunch of these the cast, a bunch of the actual actors in the movie, they were all like stars in like the kung fu era of Chinese filmmaking.
Yeah.
Like, they were all like noted.
The Shaw Brothers era.
Yeah, they were like noted kung fu artists in that era, and a lot of them, like you said,
like the Beast had been retired for 12 years.
Yeah, a bunch of them had been retired, and I don't know how she got them to come back.
When she, the landlady, she showed up for the audition with her friend. It's like if I went on an audition with you, and I was just there as like moral support. And
they were like,
she was out there smoking.
They're like, aren't you that? And
she basically, no, it wasn't even that. They saw her smoking and saw her looking like sarcastic, and then they asked her, will you read for this part? And she read and got the part. The landlord was Bruce Lee's like stunt double type.
Yeah,
he did a ton of movies.
He looks,
He was like huge on the scene, did a lot, stunt coordinator, all that stuff for Bruce Lee.
Yeah, a lot of them were. The guy who played the big bad, I forget his character's name.
Beast.
The Beast, yeah.
Sulong Leong.
Yeah, I recognize him from some of those old Shaw brother joints.
Yeah.
But yeah,
so many things alike from this movie.
A lot.
The Kung Fu is really, really good.
This is really good.
Just after the Matrix sequels.
Is it?
Yeah, because it's like, what is it, 2000?
And they don't rely so heavily on the wire work, I felt like, in this.
It's in there.
It's in there, but it's not over the top. It's not augmented. It's not like they're showing you where they'll in the way that Crouching Tiger did, where they highlight all of that. This is more like, oh yeah, I'm going to use this to...
Yeah, 2004. This was the year I moved to New York. I remember I saw this in the theater.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I still think I think the Kung Fu in this is better than the Matrix movies.
I would have to agree.
Yeah,
I think I would agree.
That whole section in Matrix 2 or Matrix Reloaded where he's like beating up all the Agent Smiths at once.
Right.
There's that moment at the end of this movie where
where he's kicking like the Axe Gang members.
Yeah, and they're just flying into the air all over the place.
Well, the elements of cartoon is what really kind of like sold this movie for me. There's a scene where the Axe Gang has sent like those two brothers who play like that Japanese
the harp.
The harp, yeah. And like sending like you'll see them strike the chords and then the knives will fly out, like very much like
another non-actors, like they were just basically like guys that they pulled in to make this movie. They had multiple directors. He directed it, but then that like fight scene with the harp players that was directed by another fight choreographer.
Makes sense.
Stephen Chow did all of his own stunts, and it shows. It's just this really like impassioned love letter to Hong Kong action cinema.
And I think Looney Tunes cartoons too.
It's got Buster Keaton. It's got Jackie Chan, Drunken Master influence. It's got Quentin Tarantino, Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of breathtakingly
brilliant,
real, and they don't really kind of make movies like this.
I don't think they hadn't ever made a movie like this to that point, and I don't think they've ever made a movie like this since then.
Yeah. And then there was weird stuff too so it came out in China, but they had to edit it a little bit.
Right.
So there were other versions which I've never seen, but other versions throughout the country, because we basically got the edited Chinese version with a new translation over the top of it. And the translation does not really match up with what they're actually saying.
Okay.
The gist is there, but it's been sort of pared down for English
Which is
audiences.
something that they did for the Netflix version of Evangelion.
Yeah,
they did that for that.
They did it for lots of anime, lots of Akira.
They changed a lot of the music. They changed a lot of the intonation. They even changed like there's a scene where in Evangelion where the main character has like a subsequently gay moment. He has a gay moment with another character, and in the Netflix version of it, they kind of omit it. It's weird.
That's very strange.
It's weird.
Well, you see that butt boy, and he looks like he's always taking a dump, right? In the movie, it's like one of the first shots you see when they're in the
pants are always off.
Always hang off. Well, there's supposed to be a little pile of poop below him. That was like a running joke, but it was too gross for Chinese audiences, so they censored it. There's supposed to be a little bit more blood that they censored, stuff like that. You know, there's a lot. I think that. It builds just like such a great world too. Like it just feels like this real world that like now that Kung Fu. The reason we're reviewing it is because they've finally announced a sequel that's coming out, and he's not really going to be in it. But that's okay because it still feels like just give me a movie set in this world where drunken masters are now landlords, and I don't know. It's like the Kung Fu is even like they're superheroes.
Yeah, they're superheroes.
Yeah. Interesting character names: Rabbit Tooth Jenny.
Yeah.
Landlord!
Yeah, I love her.
You're a scoundrel.
I love her. Did you listen? Which version did you do it with the? Because I always listen to it in Chinese.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, I never heard the English dub.
It's bad.
Yeah, is it really bad?
It's bad.
Anyone who thinks they can out-yell me had better think again.
What's this all about anyway?
The fat cow makes a lot of noise. I'm going to kill her. Watch this.
What happened?
But yeah, I think the translation is inaccurate, but it captures it well.
Yeah.
You get what's going on.
Yeah.
Not even when Shaolin Soccer, like there's moments that feel culturally appropriate in China, but for America, you're lost. You're like, what is that?
That's why I didn't. That's why even though Shaolin Soccer was previous to this and it did well, it didn't resonate so much with me.
Right.
Like I was like, this is fine.
It has moments.
It definitely has moments. It definitely has moments. But like I was like, this is fine. But I would much rather see Kung Fu Hustle than I would this.
Strange moments in this movie too, where like the bad axe gang guy is in the back of the car with the other dude, and they're driving away, and he goes to light a cigarette and accidentally lights his head on fire.
Yeah,
I mean, just like random things that like.
Well, he was shaking so much from the fear of the
landlord sitting in the back.
Well, it's funny because he's looking out the window and they're watching the thing happen, and then he turns back around and she's just sitting in the middle of them, and she doesn't say a word. She just goes. With the knuckles.
Yeah. That was exactly Bruce Lee too. That was a lot of stuff were inspired by Bruce Lee.
It's really good.
The outfit that he wears at the end when he finally reaches his full
the outfit that's very Bruce Lee.
The one. It was inspired by wuxia films from the 1930s, which were actually novels, and wuxia translates to martial heroes. So basically, this was the superheroes of China in the 1930s. And then the Shaw Brothers, after a lot of the filmmaking moved from Shanghai to Hong Kong, the Shaw Brothers kind of picked that stuff up with trampoline and wire effects and all those cool.
I love those
Chinese
movies. I still love
stuff.
those movies.
Those movies are still great. There's a lot of those.
There's a lot of them.
I
got into watching those with my dad, and I still love. I love anything Run Shaw.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a bunch of them at home on the shelf. Like Five Deadly Venoms is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Gordon Liu in the 36 Chambers. Gordon Liu was the fucking man.
Yeah.
If you don't know, Gordon Liu was basically Pai Mei, the dude who played Pai Mei in the Kill Bill movies.
Yeah. Okay. That guy
Gordon
with the
Liu.
mustache. Yeah. He also played in the first Kill Bill the main bad guy of the 88 Crazy 88.
Yeah, Crazy 8. Yeah, Gordon Liu. He's been around. He was the original guy from 36 Chambers, and 36 Chambers, of Wu-Tang. Like Wu-Tang has been inspired by these films and these people and these actors for as long as they've been making those films. So.
Yeah, my wife has many moments of brilliance, and we watched this together again. It's one of our favorite movies. We've seen it half a dozen or a dozen times.
Easily.
And she said, man, Maya Rudolph could really play the landlady.
Oh yeah.
And then Sam Rockwell could play the landlord in like the Americanized version of this.
I don't think I'd want to see an Americanized version.
No, of course not. But if you
I could definitely, Maya Rudolph for sure for the landlady. I don't know, Sam Rockwell. I don't know. I'd say maybe Jack McBrayer.
Okay, sure.
I'd say Jack McBrayer for the landlord.
Yeah, that guy's so good in it. All the acting is so good.
Yeah,
it's so funny and so right on.
It's spot on. Like the character who plays the one who has the rings.
Yes,
he's sort of an effeminate shopkeeper.
I wonder if he's really gay in real life.
No,
I couldn't figure it out.
I don't think he is. I think he's putting it on, but he's putting it on in a way that I was like, mwah.
What was great about it is I was on the fence. Like, is this offensive? Is it not offensive? It's like a stereotypical Faye kind of character, but then he comes out and whoops total ass.
Complete ass. Like the image you see, like right before you see him start whooping ass, is a guy with an axe swinging it down on him, and he's cowering. And then the next shot you see is the guy with the axe going through a window into the courtyard.
Yeah,
you're like, what happened?
This movie transitions really well too, because there's the part where like the Beast gets back to the Axe Gang headquarters, and they're trying to like get him to prove that he's like the most badass person of all time.
And he's like, hit me.
And then it's just sort of like you're in this scene for like 10 minutes. Right? And he's like, hit me.
And the guy just starts punching him repeatedly.
And it just casually pans to the side, and the landlords are sitting
like,
there.
Huh? Yeah, we just came to see what's up. And he kicks the scene where he raises his foot up to kick the door open.
Yeah, I mean, what's your favorite moment?
There's so many. Honestly, I think it's the Looney Tunes moment where he's running from the landlord.
Landlady, and she's chasing him.
And she's chasing him, and he has the two knives in his arm, and he uses the reflection on one of the knives to see that she's gaining on him, and he's just running even faster. And then the truck comes out of nowhere. He goes under the truck. She goes over, and she's styling, and then all you hear is whack as she Looney Tunes right into a billboard.
And it's so ludicrous that, like...
so ludicrous,
I remember even that moment in the theater watching it and being like, this is absurd and awesome. It's like they didn't know what they were going to do, and they were just like, okay, then we start running fast.
I think they did.
Then we do this, and then we do... And then they just filmed it.
There's a scene where they're basically, like, running like this, and you see their feet moving like a cartoon.
Yeah.
They basically amalgamated all these different genres of some of the things that I love the most.
Yeah.
And pastiched it in a way that was so good. Like, you couldn't see the seams. Like, normally when you overlay so many different types of things, you see the seams, and you're like, oh, well.
Especially when it's from China.
Right.
There's so many movies I've seen from China where, like, 60% will be great, and then there would be a 40%. And same with, like, that Wandering Earth movie.
Right.
A lot of that was really good, but then there are all these moments where I'm just like, I guess that's just Chinese culture, and they eat that up. But, like, this does not feel like
not
that.
at all.
This feels like
It's a wholly Chinese movie, but there were no parts of it that felt foreign to me.
Yeah.
It all felt like something I knew or loved or had a real affinity to.
Yeah. My favorite moment is at the end after he finally beats the Beast. Spoiler alert, if you want to watch it, just stop the podcast. But he finally beats the Beast, right? And the Beast tries to kill him again, stops him, and he could kill him, but he doesn't.
Right.
Instead, the Beast, like, bows down to him and calls him master. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, instead of saying again, get out of here and never come back, he says, I'll train you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Master.
It's like, mwah. It's so. I don't know. It makes me cry too. Honestly, it's a movie that makes me tear up. That moment where, like, she comes back and gives him, like, he opens a lollipop store at the end, the candy store, and she comes back and gives him the candy thing.
Right.
I cry it. It's just there's something that's so visceral and simple about it, but also emotional.
I think the scene that you're referring to is the scene where he realizes who she is for the first time, and is right after he's just robbed her.
Yeah.
Like, he's basically the whole movie she's been trying to let him know who she is and whatever. And the two instances you see of the two times that they interact, he threatens to kill her.
Yeah.
And then he robs her.
And
she's
her
like,
money.
she's like, whoa, look. And then she starts signing to him, and he finally recognizes that she's signing, and then you see him have the memory of realizing who she is. And even after he realizes who she is, he still runs off. And then that's when he sends his buddy away. He's like, you gotta
But
go
first
back.
he gets on the trolley, and they're eating ice cream.
Yeah.
And he's like laughing.
And he's like laughing maniacally at her right in her face. It's awesome. It's awesome.
It's like they can't do anything right. It is like that guy that you grew up with that you knew wanted to be the badass, but just couldn't because he was just too
much of a nice guy. Yeah.
You know? Even like the moment where they ask him, he's like, just go off and kill somebody.
And he starts trying to pick a fight with people. He's like, hey, you, I'll fight you.
I'll fight
and the
you.
guy stands up and he's like, no, behind you.
In the 2010 interview with GQ Magazine, Bill Murray praises Kung Fu Hustle, and he says, it is the supreme achievement of the modern age in terms of comedy, and that there should have been a day of mourning for American comedy the day that the movie came out. That's from Bill Murray.
Ouch.
It's seriously that funny of a movie.
Well, you said Mom and Dad recently saw it. Well,
yeah. I gotta pull up their comments here in a second, but yeah. I think, or maybe they just told me, I don't know.
Well, you said it made its money back by like 100.
Yeah, so it was a $20 million budget.
And what, 120 million worldwide?
Yeah, and it made about $10 million in China. Not
That's
a huge amount. No, it made about $10 million in the United States.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But then it went all
over the world and got huge.
A lot more, yeah. Hold on,
I think it would be considered a cult following at this point, because I don't think when it came to it, like, it only made $10 million in the States. I don't think a lot of people really understood or got it.
Yeah, I know that a lot
because Americans don't see kickouts. Americans aren't going to the theaters to see like a Run Shaw or like kung fu movie. Like the last kung fu movie that Americans went to the theater to see was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
right.
And that was because it had and they claim it had never been, it wasn't something that
right.
something that wasn't done in America.
You've been watching the Shaw movies.
Knew for a long time. They were like,
Cool. Yeah.
I'm your host, Lawrence Dial.
I'm your boy, Rob Karma Robinson.
Peace out.
See you next week.